Hello, and welcome everybody to another episode of Pod Strickland. I'm your host, Shwin and Prez. This is episode 326. I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Prez, that is _@ Presidente on Twitter. Prez, how are you doing on this Friday evening, or Thursday evening, sorry?
I just realized that Canada versus France is at 9:30 in the morning tomorrow. So I'm currently adjusting my schedule appropriately because I guess I'm going to have my coffee with hoops, which, I'm not mad at.
That is a good way to have coffee. It is often the way I have coffee on weekends, except instead of basketball, I'm watching soccer, which is not your sport. But
couldn't care less.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy, especially with a name like that.
Hey, what does that mean?
I'm just saying, I like cricket, okay? It's in the blood.
All right, you beat me to it because my next sentence was going to be a cricket joke.
All right.
The only thing I know about cricket is my guy, Sean Paul.
Sean Paul plays cricket?
Sean Paul. That's not his real name. Isn't his name like Chandler Paul or some shit?
Chandler Paul. Yeah.
They've asked him and the musician Sean Paul about it because on Sean Paul's songs he's like Chandler Paul and it sounds like the guy's actual name.
That's actually really funny.
And they're fans of each other. Yeah, they're big fans of each other. They've like met.
That's really funny. All right, before we get started, this is not a cricket podcast, surprisingly. All right, before we get started, to make a few announcements. The first being that the Strickland has an Instagram. Check that out. That is at thestrick.land on Instagram, posting all kinds of new content on there. The Strickland also has a YouTube channel where you may be watching this podcast. If you are and you haven't done so already, please hit like and then subscribe to the channel. That would be a huge help to us. The Strickland also has... we have merchandise. That's what it is. Wow, what a great brain fart. We have merchandise. Find that on our website. We have all kinds of stuff on there. T-shirts, sweatshirts, hats, coffee mugs, even water bottles. You name it, we have got it. The Strickland also has a Patreon, which you can subscribe to. There are a number of different tiers. There is a $6 tier that gets you access to Pod Strickland, this podcast that I host every Friday along with Prez. You also get access to the Strickland mailbag hosted by Andrew Steele, a.k.a. Doug, a.k.a. the Doug Bag, alongside Dallas and Miko. That comes out every other week. You also get access to the Strickland Discord where the conversation never stops. There are further tiers. There's a $9 tier that gets you access to Strickland Roll, my solo pod where I rant and rave about the Knicks even more. You also get access to wonderful premium articles by Matthew Miranda, one of the best in the business. There are further tiers. There's a $15 tier, $30 tier, $50 tier, and a $100 tier. Those come with a variety of additional benefits like listening on pod recordings, merchandise discounts, and even potentially co-hosting a podcast alongside yours truly one day, whether you choose to subscribe or not. None of this would be possible without you, and none of this would be possible without our good friends at BetOnline. BetOnline is your number one source for all your betting needs. Get the latest odds, lines, and matchup reports for baseball, boxing, golf, and more. BetOnline continues to be the fastest and easiest way to place your wagers, including live betting and your favorite casino and card games available to play right from your phone. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and get in on the action. Remember to use promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts.
And I'll add for the Patreon, I'm going to do a bunch of FIBA shit and a bunch of BBall Index shit, which relates to what we're going to talk about on this pod, that is going to be exclusively for our Patreon subscribers this summer. So get ready for that shit. If you want to scratch that itch during the off season, that's going to be the spot to do it.
Yes. All right. You wanted to talk about Giannis. Giannis said some stuff.
Giannis said some stuff. It's probably not a big deal. It's actually completely in line with the kind of things he said in the past. He basically said, hey, next summer, I don't even know the exact quote, but it was something to the effect of like,
if only we had a website we could use to find it.
Look, I leave that to, the help, like people like you to go pull that up and
the help. Wow.
Get all
the what are you trying to say there, pal? Huh?
We're just living on the edge in this podcast.
I have the quote here. It is
okay.
It's loading slowly.
I actually only saw the aggregation, so I've never read the actual quote, which is perhaps irresponsible, some may say.
Well, I'm just reading the Dunk.
But guess what? Quote. I'm not a beat writer for the New York Knicks, so I don't have to do basic things like that.
It's true. I would not be the best version of myself if I don't know that everybody's on the same page. Everybody's going for a championship. Everybody's going to sacrifice time away from their family like I do. And if I don't feel that, I'm not signing. This is about Giannis saying that he's not going to sign an extension in Milwaukee next summer if those conditions are ones that he's not feeling are being met. I believe he's actually extension eligible this summer if he wanted to be, but
yeah, that's not normal practice.
Yeah, it's fine. I don't think it's a big deal. I don't really like. I'll put it this way.
So yeah,
go ahead. No, you go ahead. Go ahead.
So two things. Just number one, like, I actually think he's done more than most other superstars. Use the media to kind of apply pressure to the Bucks, and he hasn't done it in like a foul way or like a weird way or anything like that. It's basically just like, yo, I'm trying to fucking win, and there are other places that I think are great to live. And he's talked about the city of Chicago. He's talked about, not like he's not one to just automatically say like, oh, like, yes, I plan on being here my whole career. He talks profusely about how he loves Milwaukee and he just loved his time there. But he's also, just kind of dropped the like, hey guys, we're trying to win here, which I'm sure they know. They don't, it doesn't seem like, the 76ers where they're like fucking flip-flopping on the fence between rebuild and compete in any given offseason. So this is closer to a yearly annual thing than some out of the blue kind of statement. But I do think it's just kind of a good reminder. The reason I thought it was interesting, it's a good reminder that like, there's been a lot of talk about Joel Embiid, rightfully so, just because there's a shit show in Philadelphia, and assuming he endures the shit show this year, he's probably not going to endure another other year of shit show. So people are talking about where he might end up, whether that might be New York. And, the Bucks are far from a shit show. I mean, they had an awful playoff exit, but they were the Bucks in the regular season. And I just think it's interesting, because if the Bucks, I don't want to say implode, but if they begin to fall apart, they're a little more handcuffed than I think people think in terms of how they can pivot to make a championship contender. And having won a championship, Giannis knows what a championship contender looks like. So I think this is just his way of saying like, hey, keep your foot on the gas to the ownership. And it's a reminder that like, if things don't go well, if they implode, right? Like Drew Holiday's old, Chris Middleton's old, like they don't have much help beyond that. I mean, Brooke is great. They paid extra to keep him. He's old too. There's just a little bit more collapse potential than is often talked about. Regular season collapse, that is. And, if that stranger things have happened than a team like that falling off. And if that were to happen, that's when it gets interesting, because then the question becomes, what can the Bucks front office do, even if they're willing to shell out money to fortify the roster, an aging roster around Giannis, right? And that's only then is it even worth bothering thinking about, like, might they give up and trade him? But only then, right? This is still a team that won whatever, like 60 something games, and playoff exit aside, they're probably going to win a lot of games this year.
Yeah, I think it's fine that Giannis has said this, because what I think is that, like, my issue is not when guys use the media to, like, once you win a championship, I kind of just like, yeah, you can just.
It's an old tradition. People don't realize, like, before Twitter, for you youngins listening, like Kobe did this, like Patrick Ewing did this, like this is not something new to people born after 1990.
Kobe did this after they won, like they three-peated. Like, it's fine. I don't care about that. I do think it's a smart way, or not even a smart way, but it is a way for a player to keep. Like, I think he's made it clear he would like to remain in Milwaukee so long as he feels like, again, as he said here, that everybody is doing the work required effectively, whatever specifics that means, doing the work required that he feels is necessary to win a championship every year. I'm fine with that. That should be the standard for him and for them, and that's fine. But I think it's smart of him to not commit to the franchise. They did have one of their bigger partners. I forget which one. It was two guys that came in, Lazary and Edens. One of them sold their share this past year. So we know when ownership changes, even if it's a minority owner, and I think they had like almost a 50-50 split. So it's a pretty big chunk of it, that things can change. And I think it's probably good timing for him to be like, hey, we need to keep our pedal to the metal. We need to keep trying to win championships. And it doesn't, I don't really, I'm not surprised that he didn't sign an extension. I actually don't even think we have to see how the cap is going to jump and all these type of things. They're saying they're going to smooth it instead of having a big cap spike like they had in 2016, because in 2025, that's when a new TV deal would kick in. But the way they've talked about it is that they're going to smooth it in and not just have it all jump in 1 year, which is fine. But the point is, like, it may not even make sense financially for him to extend until next summer, or even, it might not even make sense for him to sign a new contract until 2025 when he does hit unrestricted free agency. That's just the business of basketball. But like, I mean, I don't think the Bucks should not be any more worried today because of this quote than they were yesterday. Like, I think they have known they need to keep trying to win, and that as long as he feels that they are giving him a chance to compete, he's happy to stay there. But this is not love forever. This is, I mean, it's not even that it's not love forever, but I might love you, but maybe we're not good for each other right now. That it could develop into that. Like, if he thinks, look, let's say that Middleton and Drew look cooked this year, and Brook isn't the same guy he was last season, which is very possible considering he had like a crazy season given his age last year. Given all those factors, like, I think he's in wait and see mode. And if all those things go south, maybe he looks around and he's like, hey, I don't see how we and you can put a team around me in the next 2, 3, 4 years that really has a chance to compete. And maybe it's time to go our separate ways. Who knows?
I think that clear-eyedness is what separates someone like him from Joel, who, and I don't even, to be honest, mean that as like a slight against Joel. Joel has just been he's so tight with like the city of Philly and the ownership in Philly. He hasn't really, like, people made a little bit of a fuss about like his comments about like, I want to win a championship here or elsewhere or whatever like that. But like things like that are really not regular with him like they are with Giannis. And again, like the way Giannis does it, it's not like he's being weird about it or like annoying about it or anything. He does it pretty professionally. But you get the feeling with Joel, like Joel has put up with so much shit that I think other MVP candidates probably would be like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, get the fuck out of my face. This is stupid. Like we alluded to before, like before Twitter, anyone, guys ranging from Patrick to Jordan to Kobe, whoever you want to pick, like they were very quick to voice concerns publicly with beat writers and ESPN and local media and stuff throughout the years. And compared to them, you don't really see that much of that from Joel. So I actually think what Giannis is doing is more in line with these crazy, insane competitors of years past. And I take him for his word. So, which is why, and I think the Bucks do too, which is why they've consistently paid out the ass for guys perhaps above what they're valued. Like Drew and Brook Lopez, like they're both awesome players. Are they both overpaid? Yes. But guess what? The Bucks got to do what they got to do, man.
Yeah, and in Drew's place, in Drew's position, they took a huge risk trading out a huge trade package for him. So, look, that paid off. So it is what it is, even though he's a complete fucking shitter in the playoffs.
He got that chip.
Yeah. No thanks to his shooting from the field. Fucking bum. All right. We haven't talked about this on the pod. I did do a Q&A with Mike Kasdan, which is really good, about the Knicks filing a lawsuit against the Raptors.
Shout out Mike Kasdan, the NYU IP law professor making the rounds on the world of basketball internet online. He must have done 4 or 5 pods in like 2 days.
I saw 3 separate ones today.
Yeah. So
all after hours. All
after hours. We didn't tweet this, but you motherfuckers know who got it first. Let the record show. First, like we used to say back in the fucking forums.
Oh yeah, and PNT. Yeah, so
I mean that wasn't unique to PNT.
I wasn't too much on the forum. I wasn't on the, what was it? Wait, you were on like the Hip Hop DX forums, right?
I was on fucking all the forums of everything you could imagine, bro.
The One Piece forums.
Look, man. I'll just leave it at that.
I talked about this a lot. I will just let you share whatever thoughts you have on this. I mean, I'm assuming everybody that is listening to this already knows like at least the main background on it. It's not that complicated. The Knicks think that Azatom, that's the employee that left them to take an offer with the Raptors. They believe, and I think they have pretty strong evidence that he took files of theirs with them via Synergy. He also shared the Knicks Synergy login, it seems, with the Raptors, and very specifically their coach, their rookie head coach, Darko Rajakovic, who a Raptors fan in our stream on Tuesday, very, very upset that I was mispronouncing his name as Rajakovic. So thank you for getting upset with me and correcting me. Rajakovic, Darko Rajakovic. And, he's named as a defendant in the lawsuit, which is kind of, I mean, look, they took some very nice gratuitous shots at him in the lawsuit as well. But, I mean, that's the basics of it. That's the broad strokes, is that this is what the Knicks have filed a lawsuit about. So, I don't know. Prez, I guess I'll give you a little prompt. But, like, I've seen a lot of the general reaction is like, it's just Synergy clips. It's just he's probably just taking clips that he's made and data that he's compiled and assembled and calculated and all this shit. And it's just his stuff. And it was just faster. And that's what happened. It's not that big a deal. The Knicks are making a huge mountain out of a molehill here. That seems to be the broad consensus. But I will say this, I do think it's worth noting there has been a lot of radio silence from the Wojs of the world, the Shams of the world, the big news breakers of the world regarding this case, and even a lot of the podcast sphere, the major ones anyway, have not talked very much about this, which I think is very interesting.
Yeah, the silence is interesting. I mean, what grinds my gears about this the most is just the defense of this under the guise of like, well, there are norms, and the norms entail taking your research and materials with you from team to team. And as well as the argument that like, well, everybody has Synergy. It's just clips. Everybody has access to clips. And I'll tell you why this kind of annoys me personally. It's not even like I'm a Knicks fan kind of thing. Like, I do draft work, right? And I do this shit for fun. I don't I don't get paid for it. Unlike a lot of people on draft Twitter who are younger and really ambitious and really hardworking, I'm not trying to make a career out of this. There's a lot of people on draft Twitter who are in college or fresh out of college who are trying to make it to teams in the league. They're watching games twice, Tibbs style. They're watching fucking random early season mid-major games and shit like that. And they're going hard. And I'm not even going as hard as those folks on my draft stuff, but I put in a lot of time to it. And I have particular things in my own armchair, back of the napkin research that I'm proud of. Like everybody on Twitter knows I spend an inordinate amount of time on shooting projections and shooting mechanics and seeing if it's possible to project when changes to a jump shot result in a better jump shot, or what statistical or visual signs a prospect might have that indicate they have a bright future as a shooter and things like that. And, a lot of that took time. And a lot of the stuff that goes into that is looking at, plain ass video clips that you can see on Synergy in slow motion on different types of ways. It goes, a lot of the work is categorizing that, is annotating that. In the Knicks complaint, they talked about not just clips, but notes and annotations that were moved from this guy's Knicks account to his Gmail and all that. And I gotta say, like, I work pretty hard at this for fucking fun. And if I was actually paid to do this, I would work on it 10 times harder. 10 times harder. And if, like, yes, would I want to take that with me from one team to another? Sure. But guess what? If I was doing that on behalf of an employer and they were like, hey, we hired you because you do all this fucking work and that's proprietary and you're doing it for our team, not for yourself as an individual consultant, then I would understand that my work that I do has to stay with that organization. Otherwise, I would do what many other people do and be a consultant. Lots of people do that. It's a very common profession in the NBA. There's more basketball consultants probably than there are analytic staffers on most teams, right? Like Kranjis has come on our pod. He's a consultant. He can share whatever the fuck he wants and keep his files wherever the fuck he wants because he doesn't work for a team. There's players who have individual statisticians who work for them. Kevin Durant, back in his OKC Thunder days,
notorious loser, 20s, Kevin Durant,
notorious loser, had a personal consultant to look at his analytics and provide him feedback with that.
Don't take half-court heaves, Kevin. It'll ruin your
Don't take half-court heaves, Kevin. Exactly.
Fucking
look,
bum.
Clearly, Kevin Durant had a consultant and Russ didn't at that time. I'll say that much. But like, my point is, like, if somebody else were able to benefit from my work who I didn't intend, I'd feel the type of way of that. And that's, of course, a little bit different from the situation because you have the same analyst going from one team to another. But we're talking about a Knicks Synergy file or folder. What if it was someone I was working with who took my work and then pieced out to the fucking Toronto Raptors? I'd be fucking furious. I have a lot of confidence that I'm better at projecting shooting than almost everybody on NBA and draft Twitter. And like I said, that's as me doing this shit for fun. So I think, you know, a lot of people are just writing this shit off as like, it's inevitable that everybody gets the same stats and gets the same conclusions from it, which seems fucking idiotic. There's a reason the Knicks have the biggest staff in the NBA. They have a lot of money. They make a lot of money, and they spent a lot of that on analytics staffers. And the more money you spend on something like that, the more you should be entitled to defend that shit. Full stop. I don't give a fuck what the norms are, what teams have done in the past. We're only getting more and more data every season as arenas, practice facilities install Hawkeye tracking systems, install the NOAA shot tracking systems. You got fucking thousands of frame rates per second, capture of mechanical movements of players up and down the court. Like, this is like pretending that the data and the way it's categorized and annotated, whether it's Synergy or some other shit, is just inevitably going to be equally distributed and equally beneficial from team to team. Assuming that is going to hold is a fool's errand. Like, the NBA is much closer right now to baseball than it is to like where basketball has been in the past, where that shit becomes a true advantage. And you need not look any further than the New York Knicks, who had a top 5 offense despite having no fucking business having a top 5 offense in terms of their ability to put the ball in the hoop, the most basic thing you can track in basketball. And the reason was because they're a hyper analytical franchise, which all of these motherfuckers who want to insist that this is no big deal, or that they know for sure it's no big deal, because, you know, maybe it is no big deal, but you don't know that shit. You know, the Knicks are a hyper analytic team, even though they don't get viewed as such and they're not respected as such outside of the league. Inside of the league, I'm pretty sure they are. So I don't know why it's surprising to people. So that's my rant. I think I don't know, it's just fucking weird behavior, and it's just weirdo behavior. Like, there's no analog for this in other professions. There's just not in tech. I don't work in tech, but I know enough about that shit to know that.
Yeah, and I think so. Look, there's two parts to this. The part that you're talking about, where it's like, well, it's his work. We don't fucking know what was taken. We don't know the specifics of it. You can sit there and be like, well, it's probably his work. Okay, fine, probably is. Great, but there's what chances there that it's not? And what if 90% of his work, but 10% is somebody else's who's still with the organization or with another organization, or it doesn't really matter. But like 10% is not his. You know, it doesn't. If he's just taking his shit, I can at least have some sympathy for that. And I honestly would feel like if it's just his shit, it'll probably end up being a very, very light slap on the wrist type situation and whatever. One, if you're Azatom, maybe hide your corporate espionage a little bit better. Like try a little bit.
He was grossly stupid in how he went about it. And the last thing I'll add real quick is, even if it was quote unquote his shit, guess what? Like when you have an analytics staff of 10, 15 people, these motherfuckers are not talking to each other. They're not working in a vacuum. This isn't some like lone wolf just going through fucking synergy on his own, like me and Shwin when we're bored between podcasts. Like he's part of a team of analytics people. I know to a lot of people, some of whom have been on our podcast, the idea that you could have more than 2 or 3 people working together to break ground on analytics is probably new and foreign because they didn't have that shit when you were working on analytics back in the day. But guess what? That's what happens when you have a team of nerds working on data science. They work together. It's hard to divorce one person's work from the team.